Phil Hawkins, and the stars Emily Berrington, Finn Jones, and of course, that icon of fright, Robert Englund. Now, we're just going to open it up to you, because we know you probably have loads of questions to ask. So, take it away. Front row.
Freddie has been very, very good to me. No, Phil was very kind. There's, at the party that Emily and Finn attend at the beginning of the film, there's a little homage with a makeup of one of the guests. And then there's a slight nod with the mention of Wes Craven and The Hills Have Eyes. But I think it's all done with subtlety. And you know, I began as a character actor, and I will end as a character actor, and I consider the Freddy Krueger chapter of my life a remarkable happy accident, because it enabled me to work internationally. Horror films, science fiction films, fantasy projects like Game of Thrones, these are worldwide. They speak the language of cinema and film, and so it enables we actors to travel and work with foreign audiences because they know us. So I consider it a gift. And I was able to relax with Phil after about a day and a half and sort of throw my vanity out the door and surrender to his direction, because I'd already loved the script and I knew I was in good hands. Oh, was I in good hands?
Yeah, I just think we tried to have, and it's interesting you see all the references, and hopefully, you know, as audiences that know horror and know the genres, to see the little references we put in there throughout the whole film that kind of comments on some of the classics. And originally in the script, I had Emily dressed as like a sexy Freddy Krueger. And Finn's character is kind of like a Jason, so it's like a Freddy versus Jason thing. Well, they wouldn't know us do it. So they would have been up for it. No, in terms of the licensing, important people. So we tried to put as many kind of, you know, references to the genre in there as possible, because at the end of the day, the film it's a kind of a meta horror. You know, we're commenting on film as Stuart is making his own movie. So yeah, I hope it worked. But yeah, it was a pleasure having Robert, obviously, and everyone else doing the film.
Somebody else?
Yes. Question Robert. Your performance was reminiscent of Robin Williams in 1 Hour Photo. You know, similar to that in that respect. Were there any points of reference to the performance? It's totally different to, you know, what you're doing for the group. And my question to Bill is what's the state of play on its American release? Have you got anything? What's the plan for the American release, given that you've got Robert in the lead role?
Well, no, the only reference that I channeled a little bit, there's a great English film, Seance on a Wet Afternoon, and I borrowed a little bit from Richard Attenborough, Sir Richard Attenborough, his performance in that. I was kind of using the idea of the banality of the evil with Stuart, and that's about the only thing that I really concentrated on. Just to respond again to the first question for a second, you know, I don't really see any Nightmare on Elm Street in this film. I see this film, the influence I saw that Phil was using a little bit was more of some classic Brian De Palma thriller aspects, and even with the lighting on the set, I felt that. And then when I finally saw it with my wife and heard the score, which is, you know, that echoes of Bernard Herrmann, and of course, he was, one of his last jobs was for De Palma. You know, obviously he's Hitchcock's composer, but that was another kind of homage, I thought, that was more intentional than anything to Wes or myself.
And guys, I remember we had a conversation about, you know, your character, where you guys are going from in terms of, because obviously Finn has this very difficult arc, to, to play. The entire movie, and lots of the movie are just you staring at screens, which on paper, it must have been, I remember we had lots of conversations about how it's going to work and stuff, so I don't know whether you want to, it was interesting to me to talk to you about it. So.
Yeah, I mean, we shot for what, 3 weeks, 4 weeks? And it was all night shoot, so it was really difficult to come in with that same level of energy and intention day after day, and to keep the intention there, but to kind of keep it nuanced at the same time. Yeah.
Well, I think we were saying earlier that what was great about working with Robert, knowing him from a huge franchise, was that he could have come in and rested on his laurels and known that everybody would love to see him in a horror film anyway. But instead he came in and created a completely different character and was really sort of stretching himself every evening. So, at 7 AM when I was dying to go to bed, there were still 5 hours of shooting left. You had a great example in front of you of someone who was not going to sit back and just let the film happen. It was going to really make it into something amazing.
And I need to say that if Finn's performance didn't work, the movie wouldn't work. You have to watch the movie through Finn's eyes. He's the only person that knows the same truth as you do. And so it was this great exercise, I thought, for an actor. And, when my wife and I saw it, we were astounded. I mean, the scene where you weep with Emily. And then I remember there was like some conjecture on the set about the wallet, and they discovered, but I think that was the right choice. You needed that. That was just that extra gift so we could go down the road with Finn's performance. And I think, I'm really proud of my work in this film, and I'm so happy to work for Phil, but without Mr. Jones' work, this film wouldn't work.
Yeah, Emma, you improvised that scene in the bathroom, remember? And I kept it in. I've actually not talked to you about this. I said, no, it's off mic, just say some horrible things to him. And then,
well, I haven't really seen it properly yet, so
Oh, spoilers! That's in there.
Great.
They've all seen it. And just sorry, the American release you talked about. Yeah, it's coming out. Obviously, the UK gets it first. Obviously, World premiere here, and then on Monday comes out. In the States, I think it's September 23rd. It's VOD platforms and that stuff, and then around October, Halloween time, it hits the shelf. So that's what's happening. So we get it here first.
Somebody else. Right at the back. Yell.
I was sat next to you at the beginning of the film.
Oh, I didn't realise. Basically, as a former multiplexing employee, I've been waiting for a film like this for a very long time.
I knew you were part of the cinema because all the lines about aspect ratio, you were like, yes! You were great to sit next to and watching it, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, this is great. Also, just basically what made you think of a very meta horror film set in a cinema with a very disgruntled cinema employee who I sympathise with quite a lot. I've been there with the sweeping. But yeah, just basically what was the origin?
Well, I actually got trapped inside a multiplex cinema. I make it sound so dramatic, it probably was like 10 minutes. But it was enough to come up from, I'm cheap, I forgot to get my parking validated. So I went back up the lift into the cinema and all the lights were off. It was kind of like in this standby mode. But all the kind of, the games machines were still working and they were still playing. I thought, this is really creepy. Like, why has nobody done this? And then I just went home and started writing, basically. And then it was only later on it became a comment on horror and a comment on this change in cinema and the change in exhibition of film from kind of film to digital. Because I was actually across the way in the Empire, and I was talking to a projectionist that had been there for 40 years. And he was saying, I'm out of a job. I'm done. Like, I don't know what to do next. And it was so sad because this guy had given his life to things that we take for granted. The way the curtains open, the way the lights go down, the way it sounds, the way it looks, the aspect ratios, all this stuff that used to be somebody's job. And now is at the mercy of a computer, really. So, and then it just clicked, and then I just suddenly started to see, well, that's the kind of prism of the way of seeing the film. And then the rest is there.
Thank you.
Somebody else?
Yeah, I just wondered, Keith Allen. Did you know, were you aware who Keith Allen was for the film, and how did you find working with him? Was he's quite a character?
Well, I believe didn't I see him on, was it what, Robin Hood? What? Yes. I was in my room, you know, healing from working with Finn all night at the door. The door scene. I used muscles I didn't know I had. And he's a young man. He's a strapping young man. And we were there. I was in suburban Chester, and I flip on my television and had a Bloody Mary, and there he was, getting tarred and feathered on Robin Hood. But I know his face from a million films, and I'll hopefully see it some more in the sequel.
Rob, do you like working in England, Robert? Do you enjoy working here? Because you've been here a couple of times to do some things.
You know, the thing is, I'm such an Anglophile from when I was young. I've been, you know, our DP last night kidnapped me and took me to a secret speakeasy in Soho. And the playbills on the wall were all the actors that I wanted to be when I was a young man in the States. It was like Albert Finney and Alan Bates and Tom Courtenay, and even an actor I had starred with, John Neville, the great John Neville, Baron Munchausen, you know him as, but I did a movie called Urban Legend with John, and I had a lunch with John, and I had no idea he'd done the original Alfie on stage. So this was this wonderful little speakeasy last night, and I'm just always happy to come here. I'm going to sneak out tomorrow and see a show or two on the West End, and then come back and torment Adam Green, I think. But yeah, you know, no, I am. I mean, I can't help it. It was just like a phase of my life, and and things that happen to you when you're young, they're indelible, you know. And to be able, I knew who Finn was. I'm a big fan of Game of Thrones. I have friends on the show, and I had heard about Emily. I knew who Phil was. So it was just a great gift to get to come over here last summer and do this film.
Anybody else? Yes.
I noticed that in one of the scenes when Martin and Ali are walking into the cinema, that the trailer on the screen is for one of your film's baptism.
100 points for you.
Because I'm in that trailer.
Oh, hello! I don't know. You were on the tube, right?
Casting couch.
There we go. My wife is listening. Well, we're already a kind of film within a film, so I thought, why not put the next film in this film? And also, we didn't have any money to buy a proper trailer. So,
when we shot a lot of the scenes, I feel like we watched the baptism trailer about 10 million times to get reactions from us as well. So I've probably seen your face about a million times.
I was drowning.
Yeah, it's coming back.
Yeah, there's that closer. Yeah, I'm glad you noticed that. That's cool.
Actually, I asked Robert this earlier, but I mean, did you think of using any other film apart from The Hills Have Eyes Part 2, just to even make it more self-referential because of something that Robert might have actually been in, you know, that sort of...
Yeah, I mean, it was...
You mean Charlie's Angels?
Yes! Charlie's Angels. No, I think it was... I mean, look, we're a low-budget movie, and it's expensive to buy the rights to known movies, you know? I would have... The thing is, originally I wanted to shoot something for them to be watching. Originally in the first draft of the script, we started in like a really faux, crappy Hollywood movie called The Birthday Slasher Part 3, and it was the most fun to write, because you could just write the most cliched stuff. It was brilliant. But then I realised if I was going to send this to my esteemed actors, they'd read 3 pages, and they'd think, this is awful. I'm not, because the whole thing was it starts as another film and then pulls out the screen and it reveals you guys watching it. And it was a good gimmick, but then we didn't get into the backstory, we didn't see you guys dating, we didn't see what happened to Stuart's character. So what I wanted to find was, I mean, I don't know, it'd be quite interesting. Put your hands up if you've seen Hills of Eyes 2. Keep them up if it's in your top 5. So, I'm not saying anything. So it's an interesting film. It was available, and it was great because it allowed us to show a very Hollywood, very by the numbers, arguably controversial in terms of, you know, whether people like it, for the movie they go and see, to kind of contrast the Hollywood horror with the real horror that was about to happen. And that was just great, because it had all the moments, the guy falling out the cupboard, and the scares, and the woman going up the stairs. And this is all stuff that actually happens later in the film, in a different way with you guys. So all those moments you see are scenes that you see in kind of our version.
It also sets up, I mean, I don't need the mic, it also sets up Emily as Survivor Girl. I mean, Emily is her character in this film, and she's manipulated by Stewart of the plot. But Emily's also fulfills that thing we need, which is she's the survivor girl. And she's a classic component of the menu of horror.
Yeah. Any more before we move on? Yes.
Hi Phil, I was just wondering, was this role written specifically for Robert, or did you have a backup plan?
Yeah, so many people said no. No! I'm kidding. No, I mean, don't make Kruger cry. No, I wrote it thinking, wouldn't it be amazing? But it'll never happen. Like, that's what it was. And then my producer, Alex, hello, over there, she said, just fuck it, let's go and ask him, you know, just send the script and see what happens. And we'll sort out, you know, how to get him over here, and SAG equity, all this kind of producing stuff. And we'll figure it out if he said yes, and, you know, sent the script, and he thankfully loved it. And then it came from there. And then the similar experience with Emily and Finn, you know, we sent scripts and you guys saw it, and then I think Emily auditioned as well. It was like, these guys are amazing. I really hope they want to do it after they've read the script. And it's brilliant just to have, you know, such a horror legend and allow the fun. I mean, there's some scenes in the film, you know, when he's commenting horror and saying, you know, in my day, horror used to be scary, and all this kind of stuff, which is great coming out of maybe not necessarily what he personally believes, but it's fun for an audience to have that weight and gravitas, and contrast that with, shut your ears, the rising stars of British actors. Yeah, so it's really fun to, you know, put everyone in the melting pot and make a movie.
They actually just sent me photos of Emily's headshot.
You obviously had to
Be
film.
still my heart.
You obviously had to film in the multiplex when nobody was there, because I assume it was still being used as an actual cinema. So, I mean, and I think you mentioned, Robert, that the Despicable Me was on.
Yeah.
So,
And when I use the F word?
Yes.
Fucking minions. Everywhere.
Yeah.
So basically, you were all covered with blood,
Yeah.
while all these little kids were sort of wandering around, thinking, you know, Mummy, what's going on?
Yeah, how was that, Finn? You were covered in blood quite
I
a
was so
lot.
tired at that point. I didn't even know what the hell was going on around me. It was because we start filming at about, what, midnight? And then we'd finish at about 11 AM the next day. And that's hardcore. Like, when you get to about 5 AM, 7 AM, you're just like, you start to go a little bit delirious, don't you? Trying to help with the film. But yeah, I didn't even notice the fact there was kids around getting blood. I was like, all right, what's the next scene? Okay.
Just walking around with a gun.
You see Finn is like prepped, and Finn is in it, and he's like kicking down a door or something.
Oh.
And then somebody would arrive and correct your continuity on your blood, on your neck.
Yeah.
I remember you just glaring every once in a while. So we're past that point.
Yeah,
past the midnight hour.
I smashed so much stuff on set. I broke the cinema.
It was just like Finn smash, like Hulk smash, but yeah, you broke a few things.
Sorry.
It's all right.
Right, one more, because we have to move on. Who else is there?
I think it's someone.
All right, let's go. Yes, gentleman in the corner.
It's a question for Finn and Emily. Will you be doing any more horror?
Will you do any more horror? Both of you?
I'm not opposed to it. I mean, if the money's good.
Finn Jones in it for the money.
Also, I love horror movies, and I think if it's done with integrity and it's not gratuitous and it's intelligent and it's fun, then yeah, totally. I don't think there should be there should be divides between Oscar movies and then your great sci-fis or your great fantasies or your great horror movies. They should all be seen as one great artistic merit.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
totally. Why not? If it's good.
If the story's good, then, and I think I didn't come into this thinking, oh, I'm doing a horror film at all. I just thought it's a really good story. It's really exciting. It wasn't gory and gratuitous.
It's more like a
it was just great
psychological
idea.
thriller that kind of pays homage to horror movies.
Exactly. So yeah, I've definitely done it all.
My wife,
I just watched it at home, and my wife, and we don't see anything, but my wife was so disturbed when Emily, and you haven't seen it, but Emily does this work, the work she does in the bathroom, in the mirror, when she realizes her blouse is on inside out. Just the implication of Stuart undressing her, whatever you think may or may not have happened, and then putting it back on, and he got the blouse wrong. It's one of his few mistakes. And yet it hangs thin. It hangs his credibility. And my wife was so creeped out by Emily's work there and the implications. But that's that stuff, you know, that you don't need to have buckets of blood.
Well, listen, guys, thanks very much. Glad you were here for this. Please, give a round of applause.